Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about manners, and do they really matter? Somewhere along the way, please and thank you have got lost in everyday life. But the truth is, manners shape how we treat each other from childhood to old age. They're more than words. They're a reflection of who we are and how we value others. As a young child, I was taught manners from a very early age. When to say please, thank you, excuse me, don't interrupt when others are speaking, how to use a knife and fork, don't eat with your fingers, etc. And as I grew up, I realized that manners aren't just rules. They're the foundation of kindness and respect. Manners guide how we connect with other people. Children learn from what they see at home. If their parents have good manners and they teach their children good manners, then they usually follow that through to adulthood. Saying please, thank you, waiting your turn, sharing. All these are things that can be taught to children when they're very, very young. Good manners are about being considerate. A child who learns to listen, share, and show gratitude grows into an adult who can communicate, connect, and build trust with other people. Good manners carry you through life in so many unexpected ways. From being a child or a young adult, teenager, going to a friend's house for dinner, and when you exhibit good table manners, not just saying please and thank you, that is a reflection of you and your upbringing and your parents. When you do not exhibit those qualities, you're rude at the table, people may not invite you back. And that also is a reflection of your parents for not teaching you. And as we grow older and have careers and friendships, manners become even more important. If you're at a business dinner, you need to know business etiquette. That is not just being able to eat with the correct knife and fork, but how to interact with other people, how to show empathy, how to be professional, how to be courteous in so many ways. And those qualities are going to get you much further in life. Opening the door for someone. Why wouldn't you do that? If you get to the door first, why would you not open the door for somebody else? When you're in a parking lot, particularly a grocery parking lot, why do you not return your cart? It's just a common courtesy for other people that they're not dodging carts in the parking lot. Also, when you see someone backing up out of a parking space, why are you trying to zip past them before they back up? Be patient, understanding. Everyone's in such a hurry today. And I could go on about that. When you're out in a restaurant, look around. How many people are on their phone throughout the entire meal? That is not good manners. That is not communicating with your children and finding out what they've been up to, especially your teenage children. Personally, I used to take my son out for dinner once a month, just him and I, nobody else, and talk at the dinner table. It's amazing what you can learn from just a simple dinner. What I found interesting when I was doing some research about manners is that what is good manners in one country may not be considered good manners in another. Manners aren't universal. They're shaped by the history, the values, and the social customs of a particular country. For example, in Japan, people bow. It's a sign of respect when you're introduced. And in the United States and Canada and many other cultures, a handshake will be considered common. When I was working, I worked with an Asian man, and he said to me, you know, when we walk along the street, if we bump into somebody, we don't say, excuse me. Whereas, you know, I would. If I bump into someone, I'll say, excuse me. Or even if I walk in front of them, I'll say, excuse me. He said, well, and the reason for that is there's just so many people in the country where he was from that you'd be constantly saying, excuse me, whenever you were walking along the street. Another Asian and Middle Eastern country custom is to remove your shoes when you enter a person's home. Whereas here, it is not expected or is not common. We used to do it when we lived up north. We lived in Canada, and with the horrible winters and bad weather, etc., I mean, it was just common to remove your shoes when you entered a home. However, here in the state of Florida, we've also lived in California and other warmer states also, it's not an expectation. Also, eye contact. That's another difference that I was surprised about. That it's disrespectful to look at some people in the eye as you would here when you're speaking to them. It's a sign of confidence in Western culture. When you speak to someone, you look at them. So these differences remind us that good manners are about understanding context. Whether you're traveling or meeting someone new or simply interacting online, being open-minded and observant shows respect, even when we don't know every rule. So let's talk about the pros and cons of good manners. When you say please and thank you, or hold the door, or simply smile at someone, it shows that you respect them. When you say good morning to someone you don't know, you don't know what's going on in that person's life. That could just make their day, or smile. And good manners opens doors professionally. Good manners gives us confidence. It allows us to behave in different situations. Good manners connects generations. The things that my parents taught me, I also taught to my children, who have taught to my grandchildren. But here's the other side of that. Some people think that if you have good manners, you can be weak or too soft. And sometimes, if you're trying to be proper all the time, it can just be exhausting. It's like you're performing instead of just being yourself. If you have been taught good manners and you have a practice of using good manners come with ease. You don't have to think about what should I do in this situation. You're just comfortable and you do whatever. Too much politeness can make it hard to set boundaries. Have you ever apologized when you really didn't need to apologize? That's called people pleasing, not good manners. So, like most things, it's all about balance. Good manners matter. They make life smoother and kinder, but they should not come at the cost of your honesty or your voice. At the end of the day, manners are less about memorizing rules and more about showing respect for yourself and for others. Whether you're 5 or you're 80, like me, kindness and consideration never go out of style. Good manners open doors for you, smooth over misunderstandings, and remind us that everyone deserves to feel valued. And when we extend that courtesy across cultures, we create a more understanding world, one small gesture at a time. So what prompted me to make this video? Honestly, for a person who has been brought up using manners, respecting other people, and expecting that respect in return, although respect is earned, you don't give respect to someone, it has to be earned. When I look at some of the young kids today, they're constantly on their phones. They don't have any people skills. And I wonder how they are going to interact with people as they get older on a business level. It's frightening to me to think that we could have a whole generation who doesn't know how to speak to one another. The rudeness, the disrespect for different cultures today is an abomination, in my opinion. If you travel, and I have not done a lot of travel, but I've done some travel to various countries, Europe, the Caribbean, North America. I haven't been to South America. I would love to do that. That's off topic though. You see that families pretty much want the same thing for their children, no matter where you are. And although our cultures may be very different, there's lots of things that we can learn from one another. Our manners may be different, but that does not mean that a person is rude because they have a different set of manners, especially when you go to another country. I'm also just so disappointed in what I see when I go out for dinner. My husband and I go out for dinner, and we do not have our phones at the table, even here when we're eating dinner. We may look up something at the end of dinner and over a discussion that we've had, but it's just common courtesy and respect for the person or persons that you're enjoying a meal with. And especially for young children, they see this going on and just think, it's okay. Maybe it is okay, and I'm just old-fashioned. I would love to hear your thoughts on manners, no manners, what are good manners? What have you learned from having good manners, or sometimes not knowing what the appropriate manners are? I'd love to hear. Please drop them in the comments. I will respond.